This research paper studies the resolved properties of cold atomic and molecular gas in galaxies living inside the Virgo cluster. Galaxies living inside clusters experience external processes from their environment that affect these gas reservoirs, which causes the formation of new stars to eventually shut off. Now, we know that these processes remove the gas from the outskirts of galaxies by directly stripping it off as they move through the cluster. However, our understanding of both if and how these processes affect the gas in the center of galaxies, which is more tightly bound, has remained unclear. So we set out to clarify this picture using new observations from the VERTICO survey. This new data filled a gap in our observations of the cold and dense molecular gas in galaxy centers where stars form. Combining this with existing atomic gas data gave us a complete picture of the cold gas in these galaxies on scales of roughly a kiloparsec. Now, by comparing this data with observations of galaxies that live outside clusters in isolation, we studied how the resolved gas properties of cluster galaxies are changed by the environment they live in. The two images shown next to me encapsulate much of our results. On the left, we see atomic gas densities, and on the right is the molecular gas densities. Virgo cluster galaxies shown in blue are part of that population if they entered the cluster recently, and in red if they're longer-term residents, while the isolated galaxies are shown in grey. The atomic gas of the recent infall galaxies is shifted to lower values compared to the grey, while for the molecular gas, it's very similar. These changes mean that in addition to losing gas from their outskirts, these galaxies are also losing atomic gas in their center, but the molecular gas is not strongly being affected because they're only recent additions to the cluster. If we now move to the galaxies that lived in the cluster for longer, namely the red population, we can see there is lower density in both the atomic and the molecular gas compared to the isolated galaxies. As these objects have been in the cluster longer, they've experienced stronger environmental processes that have reduced both the atomic and the molecular gas content. This summarizes much of our results. In the remainder of the work, we compare these gas densities to what we might expect from some of the physical models aimed at describing gas content in galaxies. What this does, it lets us try and distinguish between the different cluster environment processes at play to see if we can narrow down to one being dominant. We find that these models can't explain our results, and instead we suggest that direct gas stripping is responsible for reducing both the atomic and the molecular gas content in the centers of these Virgo cluster galaxies.